Hey, what's going on, guys? Kitsune TCG here, back with another video. Today we're going to be looking at an updated build of my Live Twin Spright deck. I've shown this one off a few times. I took this one to a regional this past weekend. I managed to go 5-1-1. I did finish 9th. Unfortunately, just, kind of due to some tiebreakers, I guess the kind of loss in the draw I had didn't measure up as well, so I was the lowest of the 5-1-1s, so just missed out on the top 8. But overall, I was really happy with how the deck performed. Definitely could have done a little bit better in my draw. Loss was against Labyrinth, and really that just kind of seems like a tough matchup I have noticed, at least the build that I've kind of been bringing. So, but overall, I was very happy with how the deck performed. So I thought I would just kind of first off start off by showing off some test hands of just what this deck is capable, and then I'll just really quickly kind of go over the card by card and notice how everything kind of performed for me this past weekend. So looking at it, Veiler, Imperm, already, pretty good interruption on your opponent's turn. And that's really just about everything you'd want. Obviously would prefer a Lilla over Kiss a Kill, just because you're basically netting an extra draw that way. But start with a Kiss a Kill. You would bring out Lilla. In this situation, we do have pretty much access to all of our plays, so we are pretty much good to go there. Now, have been sometimes, kind of games 2 or 3, even sometimes game 1 with Lilla going into Lingaribo. I had a lot of people not realize that the, base Live Twins are Cybers. And honestly, the Lingaribo had come in handy, whether or not it was against, like, maybe an Imperm. But really the big thing that I had kind of used it against was just stopping evenly matched. And with a lot of people, kind of maining or siding that, it was definitely a pretty good card to bring in. So we can special the blue. Blue, we definitely want to grab, just based off of this hand, a Jet. Now from there, since we did open the red, we can actually just go ahead and bring it out. So we're pretty much protected against anything. We can bring out a Jet. And Jet really, honestly, just kind of depends. So, if double cross, if a kind of interruption would work out better, that could definitely be an option. But I think probably the best at this point would be a starter. And so now you have like a few different options. Like you could technically overlay these two into Gigantic and bring out like a Carrot, but it all really just depends on like what you would prefer. You could even overlay this. That's kind of what I have been doing, is going into the Gin Buster. So not only does this give you like the same kind of like monster negate that you get with red, but since it also is, a rank 2, when you use it with like a red or a carrot, it, you basically negate it, or not only do you negate it, but you negate and destroy. So kind of been preferring that one. And, you'd be able to link these two. For the Kiss a Kill, Kiss a Kill can bring back that Lilla. And then you would go those two into your Lilla. Lilla bring back the Kiss a Kill, and this is just going to be how you're going to net your last draw. And talents, so a little bit of an unfortunate draw. Would have liked to have gotten another hand trap, but all in all, we have a Veiler, we have an Imperm, we have a starter, which can basically just become, whatever we want in the moment. So whether or not we want, because we do play a second red, we can make another red. We can go into a Carrot for Spell Trap Negate. But you do want to typically link those away for another Kiss a Kill, just so you have access to the quick effect pop with Lilla. But all in all, there's plenty of interruptions that this deck is able to put out. I'll just kind of shuffle this up real quick show it off one more time, and then I will go quickly over the kind of card by card and, you know, just kind of explain what really kind of worked for me over the weekend. Blue, Frost, Lilla, that's just the perfect hand. Yeah, starter and Baylor. Yeah, perfect. I mean, probably one of the better hands that you could ask for. So for this one, obviously we're going to go ahead and start off with Lilla. So we already have the Frost, so all we have to go into is just going to be a regular Kiss a Kill. I definitely want to bring out that Frost. We'll leave that there for now. Go blue. Blue can grab us Jet. And from here it just kind of depends on, actually I guess we would want to, we'll hold the Frost on there so we can get Jet out. Jet will grab us. Again, it really just kind of depends. You know, you can go for another starter, so you can activate them on this turn, or you can go like a double cross. We'll just grab another starter. Again, we'll overlay these for the Gen Buster. So Fifth Summons protects us from Nibiru. Now we can go into Frost. Lilla can become the Lingeribo again. And then, yeah, pretty much just free to do the rest. Be a pretty similar combo, Kiss a Kill. But before we go into the finish that, just kind of go ahead and go starter to get out a red. Just so, you know, not accidentally drawing that. Hopefully allows us to get into something a little bit more impactful, maybe like an Ash Blossom or an Imperm. Kiss a Kill will bring back your Lilla. And then those two, you go into Evil Twin Lilla. And then, yeah, Lilla will bring back that Kiss a Kill. Okay, Girl Talents. I mean, all in all, honestly, pretty good M-boards. So, again, Monster Negate in Valor. We have a starter that can go into a Carrot, or, you know, if this isn't enough, which usually, honestly, should be, this could be a blue for some follow-up on, you know, the next turn of the end phase. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, like I said, the deck did really well. You know, there are many times where pretty much just, you know, you end on this kind of like full combo and they just kind of scoop, you know. Not many decks are going to be able to play through a lot of this. Really the only one being Kashtira, and then in a lot of situations you are able to handle the deck relatively well, as long as you just kind of know like the best times to interrupt. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and, you know, go over the card by card to kind of explain my thoughts on that. And alright guys, yeah, and just kind of going by the card by card for the main deck, you know, running 3 blue, 3 jet, 2 red. I just prefer the 2 red over, you know, like a second of anything else. You know, Carrot, it's obviously pretty good against a lot of decks, you know, that rely on like spells and traps, but I just think with the majority of things, obviously being like monster effects, having a second red is definitely what I would prefer. And so I definitely liked the ratios on those. The 1 Pixies, I think, took a lot of people by surprise. You know, overall, I think it's a pretty good card to include at least just one of, just because, you know, you are able to search it off of blue, you can technically get it out with starter, and, you know, you can use its effect either in hand or field to, you know, give the plus to the attack. It also counts as a level 2 dark that can be special summoned, so, if you do need something, if you need to go into Gigantic, you can use it for that. If you need to use it for material to go into the Evil Twins, you can definitely do that, but really the only reason you'd be ever summoning it and not keeping it in hand, or if you're needing it for a Gin Buster, which I did use once or twice, so it was helpful there, but primarily it just kind of was there for, protection of, obviously a lot of these monsters and a lot of your extra deck rank 2s don't have the highest attack, and that just kind of was there to protect that, protect those. And honestly, I did have an Ictister matchup where it came in handy against, the big boss monster, obviously unaffected, by pretty much everything, but can still be destroyed by battle, so, having that definitely helped me up there. So I think overall, just including one of it, just because of its, versatility, whether or not you do need to summon it, or if you're able to keep it in hand, I think, kind of comes up more than I think most people imagine. Like I said, it did take some people by surprise, so people not expecting it, I think, definitely makes it a lot better in this deck. Obviously the 3 starter, the 1 smashers, and the 1 double cross, and that just kind of rounds out the Spright cards. You are maxing out on the Lilla, so you do want 3 of that one. That's the better one to summon, since Kiss a Kill Frost is the better one to get out of the deck, so obviously you want to max out on the Lilla. Just 2 of the Kiss a Kill, like I said, because Lilla is the better one, you do want to max out on that, but you are still needing a few of the Kiss a Kills. Primarily because if you do happen to draw the Frost, then you want to still make sure that you have a Kiss a Kill to go into, just to be able to kind of get the benefit of having drawn it. You do play the 1 Lilla Treat. Honestly, it's really just there for an extra name. Its effect isn't all that great. It never came up for me, but again, really it's just there. Also, same thing, it's a dark level 2, so you can use that to go into Gin Buster. It can just be additional material for any Link plays. It could be for, Gigantic, anything like that. But yeah, it really wasn't in there for its effect. It was just there for an additional special summon to, kind of go into your Link or Rank plays. And then finally the Frost. Again, this one's obviously the best one, just being able to, draw on a card as soon as your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand. And then you do play the 3 Sunny Snitch. A lot of times this isn't searching out, the regular Lilla or regular Kiss Kill or anything like that. A lot of the times it was just, searching out the Frost or the Treat if you need that. So, there was 1 or 2 games where it was searching Lilla, but, primarily, or pretty often you're seeing one of these 2 anyway, so it's just, grabbing that Frost as your primary target for it. And its, burn effect is pretty relevant, especially, with the way time rules are. That definitely is not anything to, overlook. And then as far as, some going second and just some hand traps to interact with, we play quite a lot of them just because, this deck is able to, do typically about 2 to 3 draws. So pretty often, you're seeing at least 1, hopefully about 2 in hand, pretty common. The 3 Nibiru, this can sometimes, obviously, mess up your live twin plays because they obviously want you to have a free board when you go to summon them. But, that really didn't come up as a problem in the few situations that interaction came up, just because Nibiru itself, if you're able to resolve that, majority of the time when they pass back to you, they don't have anything to stop your plays. And, as long as you have, Lilla plus, a blue or, a Jet or just any other kind of card to summon, you're going to be kind of able to go through your plays anyway. You still normal the Lilla, special any one of these, overlay to Gigantic, then you can bring out the Frost that way. And then, use the Nibiru to link away. So, yeah, just kind of whatever the situation is. I don't think Nibiru was too big of a drawback to not play it at 3. And, yeah, it didn't interfere usually too much because, you were pretty often seeing at least a, Lilla, Kiss a Kill plus a Spright. So, not a big deal there. 3 Ash Blossom, I'm playing 3 of them, but I hardly saw it this weekend. It would have been a lot better if I had seen it more often, but it's still a card that you want to include 3 of. It hits, so many really top decks right now and just a lot of important cards. 3 Valor. If there was a hand trap I would cut, it would probably be Valor for something else. I don't think I'd go back to like the Nimble package or anything like that. It'd probably maybe just be, you know, some other cards that I'd prefer, but this would be the only one that it kind of clogged up my hand every now and then, but you know, I did use it several times, so I could perhaps just be kind of nitpicking at this point. It's 3 talent. This one came up, you know, pretty often. Obviously, Aria's Heart is a mandatory effect, so, you know, as long as you're able to get them to activate that in main phase, you know, whether or not you just activate one other card, then, you know, you're able to steal that. And depending on what you've done that turn, you know, you could just attack, you know, and then overlay for like a Zeus, just to make sure that they're not getting the Aria's Heart back. So, you know, Talents is a pretty good card to play in the deck against most matchups, but particularly against Kashtira. And then finally the 3 Imperm. Obviously Imperm is just kind of a little bit better than Valor, you know, because you are able to activate it on your turn, and it does have like that additional effect if you happen to set it, but most people at this point, you know to play around the Imperm column. But yeah, let me just go ahead and go over the extra deck, and then I'll kind of show off the side deck as well. Alright, and then yeah, just going over the extra deck and the side deck. You know, you are playing 2 Gigantic. You never want to go down to 1, especially, you know, now with Kashtira just being able to, you know, banish a extract monster. With Unicorn, you don't want that situation to ever come up, but you were playing 2 anyway just because it is one of the better cards in your extra deck. You know, just being able to, you know, prevent yourself from being able to be Nibiru'd. Plus, you know, kind of, you know, going through an easy way to get out of blue or jet or whatever you need in the situation. So definitely 2 of that is pretty important. Soul Sweeper is also a pretty important card to have, just because, you know, this deck does obviously struggle with putting up big attacks or attack monsters with a lot of attacks, so having something like that that's able to, you know, eliminate a big threat that can help you kind of push for game is pretty important. The Gin Buster is obviously a part of, you know, your preferred inboard, so you definitely want to have that, you know, having access to an additional monster negate. And you know what, the burn damage is pretty important, pretty relevant for especially like time, so overall I think that's a pretty good one to have. The number 2, the Mosquito, you know, this is I think just a much better version of the Sky Cavalry. You know, it can't be destroyed by battle, just like Sky Cavalry couldn't. You don't have access to the Sky Cavalry, you know, bounce, but I think this has a more relevant effect, especially with you playing Nibiru. You know, as long as you can go into the Mosquito, obviously, you know, it's primarily there for your Zeus, but, you know, there are situations where, you know, you can go Mosquito, attack with something, you know, put the counter on it, you know, like if they have like a Nibiru token, if it's over 4k, and, you know, as long as you have the Mosquito plus the Nibiru plus one other monster, you could actually, you know, just do 8k damage, you know, using the Mosquito's effect, so it comes up, it's, you know, it's pretty relevant, even for just time, you know, if you're just needing to kind of hop into battle real quick, you're going to be able to put up a lot of damage with it, you know, it's just another way for you to do damage in a deck that doesn't have a lot of the high attack position monsters, so it has some pretty good effects. You know, they definitely come up, you need to be aware of them, but really it's primarily just there for Zeus. Downard, again, you know, you really can't have Zeus without having its pilot, so, you know, you've got the 1 Downard. You know, you are playing 2 of Zeus, you know, again, you just want to avoid Kashtira banishing the 1 of, so having 2 in there is unfortunately necessary. Obviously, it does kind of just limit your extra deck a little bit, needing to play 2. The 1 of Linguribo, you know, this was initially something I was looking at just to avoid being Ibly locked, but the more that it kind of came up, the more that, you know, if you're going first, you can just go into it anyway, and it protects you against traps, so, you know, that obviously covers a possible weakness for the deck, so, you know, having it in there is kind of a necessity, but, you know, it also can actually turn into a pretty powerful part of your inboard. Sprint, you know, you're not really playing anything that benefits from this too much, but, you know, there are some situations where, you know, you can go, if, you know, you don't have access to one of your, you know, live twins, you can go Sprint, dump it, and as long as you have, you know, the ability to put another monster on board and go into Gigantic, you know, you can bring out the another name. So if, you can go from having no live twins in hand to, sprint them 1, go into gigantic, summon the other one, and then, just kind of go from there. So obviously that's a pretty bad board state, but it, still gives you the ability to go into it. And yeah, I mean, it's really just kind of there also as well to make gigantic bigger. But yeah, overall, it has some kind of niche uses in the deck. You're just playing the 2 live or evil twin kiss a kill. If you could, you would want to bump it up to a 3rd, but again, like I said, extra deck space is a little bit tight, so kind of have to make do with the 2, and the 3rd usually doesn't come up, so it's not too big of a deal. You need the same thing with the 2 Lilla. This one you wouldn't need the 3rd of. 2 is just fine. Really, the only benefit for having the 3rd kiss a kill is because you do go through a 2nd one on your 1st turn just to give access to the pop. So that's the only reason why you need the 3rd one there. But you definitely don't need 3 of the Lilla. And finally, the Trouble Sunny. This is really just there again. Big attack position monster, which then can tag out for some additional damage. Obviously, by the time you've gone into Trouble Sunny, you've probably activated their effects, so that's not really relevant as far as being able to trigger them. But it is relevant, beat over a big card, tag out, and then do some more damage. Usually enough to push for game. And then finally for the sideboard, the Kaiju here is pretty good. You can get rid of an Arias Heart. If they have like preparations or Big Bang, being able to get rid of perhaps their only Kashtira monster, just to kind of put those offline, that can be pretty relevant. I did play an Ignister deck, so getting rid of their untargetable card is pretty important. I didn't come up against Labyrinth because I mean, to be honest, they just kind of out-resource you so much, but technically you could Kaiju the Lady Labyrinth to prevent them from getting any additional sets. So having a Kaiju I think is a pretty important thing at this point, just because it does hit so many of the top decks. Same thing for Ghost Bell. There are several kind of targets you have for it that I think just make it a pretty good one to have on the side. Red Resonator is obviously just in there for the time. It's unfortunate that that's something that you kind of have to play, but better to have it and use it and feel bad about it, but you get the win. So yeah, it comes up more than you can imagine, especially with just kind of how games kind of go on. Yeah, but definitely better to have that in the side deck. 2 Lightning Storm and the Feather Duster plus evenly matched. This is obviously there for any back row or decks that just put up either a lot of link monsters, a lot of back row, things like that. So you definitely want to have those 6 cards. Like I said, it's necessary, especially as Labyrinth is your weakest matchup, but yeah. And then finally the 3D barrier, obviously, that can hit Branded with Refusions, it can hit with Kashtira with Exceeds, like several other decks that could just be kind of a card that, turns off their whole turn. You could do it against, against like a Spright matchup, Melty Sprites become pretty popular, so if you want to call Synchro to make sure that they can't go into the Arclight, if you want to go Exceed so they can't go into, like Melty of the Forest, anything like that, it does kind of give you a few different options. So yeah, D-Barrier I think is obviously still just kind of a mainstay in the extra deck. But yeah, let me know what y'all think down below. Like I said, the deck's really fun. I'm definitely going to probably take it to another regional again this weekend. Might make some minor tweaks, but I will definitely let y'all know from there, and I will see y'all next time.